All right. Happy Monday. It is Monday, March 3rd, 2025. Welcome to a special live edition of The Liz Wheeler Show. We are live on X. We are live on YouTube. We are live on Facebook. It is good to see you all. It is good to sit here live with you. Let me know where you're located. Let me know if you are still experiencing the frigid cold weather that so much of the United States has been experiencing, or if it's starting to warm up for you. We have a couple topics we're going to talk about on the show today. We're going to talk about Andrew Tate. He landed in the state of Florida, right here in the United States. We're going to talk about Zelenskyy. Did you know there's a new word that's been coined? Zelenskyy'd, and very rightfully so. We have many things to talk about, but I want to start with what's happening down in Florida. Andrew Tate, for those of you who are not familiar with him, Andrew Tate was once the most Googled man in the world. Andrew Tate was looked up to by young men around the world. He was considered a role model for young men. Many young men considered him to inspire them to get their bank accounts in order, to focus on physical fitness. Andrew Tate styles himself as someone who teaches young men how to be men. The problem with Andrew Tate is that he's actually not a good role model for young men. He is leading young men down the path of self-destruction. This is what I mean. Andrew Tate's message resonates with young men around the world, or at least it did until about a year ago when Andrew Tate suddenly had a fall from grace, which we'll talk about in a moment. Andrew Tate's message resonated with young men because Andrew Tate accurately diagnoses a very real, very severe cultural attack on young men, especially young men in Western nations. Andrew Tate accurately diagnoses that Western culture demonizes young men. Western culture tells young men that they are toxic simply because they have testosterone coursing through their veins, that Western culture feminizes young men, and that even institutionally, young men face discrimination in our country, sometimes even on a legal basis. You can use the Me Too movement as an example of that. And Andrew Tate speaks these words to young men who are sitting there feeling that they cannot speak up about this cultural attack against them. And of course, this causes young men to feel that Andrew Tate is speaking up for them, these disillusioned young men. The problem with Andrew Tate is not his diagnosis of a very real cultural problem that we've been talking about on this show for years and years. The problem with Andrew Tate is that as an antidote to this very real cultural problem, Andrew Tate prescribes to young men a self-destructive path, a path of materialism and pornography and exploitation of women and worship of self. Needless to say, those are objectively bad things to recommend or demonstrate to young men as being what it means to be a real man. Now, as I mentioned, Andrew Tate left Romania late last week and flew to Florida. He is appearing today live on the Patrick Bet David podcast, the PBD podcast. And my message to both PBD and Andrew Tate and all of the people watching, all of the young men who have considered Andrew Tate to be somewhat of an idol, is before you idolize Andrew Tate, before you defend Andrew Tate, before you follow Andrew Tate, before you listen to the advice of Andrew Tate, listen to the words that this man is saying to you. Listen to the words that he would rather you not hear, but were captured on video. For example, this is what Andrew Tate says about women. And I want to, before we play this video here, I want to give a warning. If you're near children, this is sensitive content. It's violent content. It's disturbing content. This video is 1 minute and 9 seconds. And I think it's important that you see this for yourself, because this is the real Andrew Tate. This is Andrew Tate. This is the influence that Andrew Tate has on young men as he's telling them that he's teaching them to be a real man. This is the real Andrew Tate. Take a listen to this.
They didn't teach you in self-defense? Here's a little move. When I grab you by your neck and you start annoying me trying to resist, and I just, and then I grab you by your neck again. Then what the are you gonna do when your face is collapsed and your cheekbone's broken? You ain't gonna do cry.
I guarantee I changed the way you look at sex forever. You're gonna be crying. I won't cry. I bet you cry. I bet you cry. You're saying I wouldn't cry. You're challenging me to a fight. You're saying I can't hurt you. You're out of your mind? I don't even have to you. Forget the sex part. That's a distraction. My can stay in my pants. I'll just start beating the shit out of you. How about that? We walk in the bedroom. I start kicking your ass. No sex. No sex involved. But you cry then.
I perfected this in pimp school. When I got my PhD, we had to practice if a girl comes at you, Ah, you cheater, you're cheating. It's bang out the machete, boom in her face, and then grip her up by the neck. Like, shut up, panties get wet. Machete's on the floor, her panties are all wet. You go, her. That's how it goes. Slap, slap, grab, choke, shut up, sex. These are the basic moves of pimp.
No, if you're disgusted by that, you should be. PBD, you invited this man on your show. Did you ask him about this video? Did you ask him about choking women, bashing their skull in, their face in, making them cry, sexually abusing them? Did you ask him to defend those comments? Now, some people will say, well, that was a long time ago, Liz. That you took that out of context. And my answer to that would be, in what context are comments like that appropriate? In what context are comments like that defensible? In what context would you want your son or your brother or your father or your husband or your boyfriend to be listening and being influenced by content like this? Now, Andrew Tate is a pimp, and I didn't pick that word for Andrew Tate. Andrew Tate picked that word for himself. He is a self-admitted pimp. Take a look at this.
I was all about trying to get paid. Like I used sex as a tool to make women love me so they'd obey me and live in my house and make me money. That's what I wanted. So I was a pimp in that sense.
Being kickboxer, yeah, playboy, pimp.
I'm happy with those labels so far.
But the majority of my money wasn't made in fighting. My money was actually made in the pimp game.
Way to understand some basic concepts to the pimp game. Basic concepts to the realities between men and women. Women need a man to do OnlyFans. It's the same reason a woman need a man to do anything, because they're incompetent and they're very, very lazy. And they're stupid. When you're pimping like me, it's a full-time job. So yeah, on corporatetape.com I have my PhD program, and that is, PhD is a pimp and hose degree.
Again, I would challenge those of you, and everyone watching this show, I see you in the live chat right now. You're my people. I think the young men, especially who watch this show, you're patriotic Americans. You want to be the best young men that you can be. So ask yourself this. If Andrew Tate actually wanted to be an advocate for young men, if he actually wants you to be happy and fulfilled, to live in a country where you are honored as a man, then why is he not telling you to get married? Because according to studies, being married is the most important differentiator between happy men and unhappy men, with a 30% percentage point happy, unhappy gap over the unmarried. But you'll notice Andrew Tate's not talking about that. And Andrew Tate, by the way, last year he did a media tour, a PR tour. He went on Candace Owens' show. He went on Tucker Carlson's show. And he said on those shows that he won't apologize for running a pornography business. For those who don't know, he ran a porn business. He ran a business on OnlyFans. Andrew Tate says he's not sorry for that. He doesn't think what he did was bad, this exploitation of women, this pimping of women. And he claims he didn't hurt anyone. He didn't hurt the women that he was pimping. Again, my question to PBD is, are you going to ask Andrew Tate about this, or are you going to pretend that this was in Andrew Tate's past so far back that he should not be held accountable for this? We'll get to that in a moment, because there's proof, Andrew Tate's own words, that this is not in his past. But let's talk about his brother for a second. Andrew Tate's business partner is his brother, Tristan Tate. Tristan Tate is likewise engages in despicable behavior. In fact, and I'm going to show you this video too. Again, I'm going to attach a warning to this. If you are listening to this show right now in any place that young children are listening, you're probably not going to want them to hear this. This is a brief 45-second video in which Tristan Tate tells young men that he has sex with 2 to 3 virgins a year, and he says, I'm going to teach you how to manipulate virgins into sleeping with you. Take a listen to this.
When you run game like me and meet the women who I meet and roll in the circles I meet, you meet beautiful virgins sometimes. Me, I'll do 2 or 3 virgins a year. Now, how do you date a virgin when you're an ice cold player? There is a tactic which I'm going to share with you on how to date a virgin and how to take a girl's virginity. Now, the recipe hasn't changed, but the tactics and the implementation has certainly changed. Be their boyfriend for 3 months and be in a nice relationship with them. That is the recipe. I'm sorry, guys. You want to run into a virgin and fuck her the next day? Don't ask me how. I don't know. I don't think anyone knows. I don't even think it's possible. You have to be their boyfriend for an extended period of time. You then have to take her virginity on the 2nd month anniversary or something along those lines. And I'm going to teach you how to do it while still being in a Playboy lifestyle scenario.
Again, the question I pose to you is, in what context is that defensible? In what context does that make Andrew Tate and Tristan Tate a good role model for young men? The answer to that, and I'm sorry if this is difficult for some people to hear, the answer to that is they are not a good role model. And I apologize for the missed bleep on the F word in that video. If you are in fact watching this in a setting where young children can hear this, these men are leading American young men to a path of self-destruction. And for those of you who right now in the comment section are saying, well, this isn't Andrew Tate's past. Tristan Tate said these things years ago. They no longer ascribe to this philosophy. Well, Tristan Tate, that's not true. Tristan Tate published a sex diary on his website in 2022, 3 years ago, detailing this stuff. So no, Tristan Tate hasn't changed. And on December 30th of 2024, that's what, 2 months ago, Andrew Tate calls women sex workers. Look at this tweet. He says, fact, women are sex workers. Their primary job is to find one customer, called a boyfriend, to pay for their entire lives in return for the P word. If they fail at this, they do OnlyFans or porn, the same game with more than one customer. If they're ugly, they work a job badly and are miserable. So I would pose to you the question, does that sound like Andrew Tate has disavowed his degrading, misogynistic, hateful, disgusting views on women or not? Of course it doesn't. So my message to Patrick Bet-David today is, don't you have daughters? Don't you have 2 young daughters? And to young men everywhere, Andrew Tate is leading you down a path of self-destruction. I understand the temptation when someone like Andrew Tate accurately diagnoses a serious, legitimate cultural attack against you. That's very real and that's hurt you. It is tempting to follow his lead. But his antidote to the problem that he accurately diagnoses is poison. His antidote is materialism, pornography, exploitation of women, and egotism. Reject him. Reject him. Speaking of egotism, there's a new word that's been coined over the weekend, and it has to do with the president of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelenskyy. This is one of the funniest things. The American people are waking up because you are, as you ever have been, very smart. And Donald Trump is, as he has ever been, not only an excellent showman, but the best of the best negotiator. And we saw that for the first time in the Oval Office when Donald Trump threw Zelenskyy out of the White House. We saw for the very first time exactly how Donald Trump gets the very good deals that he always secures. And a new word has been coined as a result of that smackdown in the Oval Office. We're going to talk about that in just a second. We're also today going to break down RFK and the measles outbreak in Texas later this week, most likely. I don't know if we'll have time for that today. But I want to talk to you for a second about Ivermectin. Ivermectin's an interesting case study, is it not? Because it wasn't an isolated incident during COVID when we were told that Ivermectin, we were told, by the way, by public health officials, doctors, pharmacists, politicians, that Ivermectin's a horse drug, a cow drug. Don't take it, they said. It doesn't work against COVID. Take instead our experimental vaccine. That was not an isolated incident. That was a playbook that they intend to repeat against us. The reason that they lied to us about ivermectin is because had they admitted that ivermectin was effective against COVID, then they would not have secured their emergency use authorization for their mRNA vaccine. So they deliberately lied, which is bad enough. They did so for a profit, which is grotesque, and they didn't care that it hurt us, which is evil. If they're going to use this playbook on us again, I want no part of it. I want to be prepared and have access to the medication that I need when I need it, that my family needs when my family needs it. That's why I'm so proud to partner with All Family Pharmacy. They offer over 200 different medications and bundled emergency packages to ensure that you and your family are ready for anything. At the heart of this effort is the Make America Healthy Again movement, a call to take control of your health. Be prepared for the unexpected, or be prepared to defend yourself against politicians who would exploit you. And if you find yourself in a pinch, if you maybe aren't as prepared as you should have been, All Family Pharmacy's got you covered with overnight delivery. Go check out allfamilypharmacy.com/Liz. Because you are part of this movement, you can use my code Liz10 at checkout for an exclusive discount. Again, that's allfamilypharmacy.com/Liz, code Liz10. allfamilypharmacy.com/Liz10. Okay. Thanks to Biden. Remember that guy, Biden. The US dollar is facing unprecedented inflation. We're still suffering from this. It doesn't go away immediately just because Trump was elected. Inflation has affected all of us a lot. And as if this isn't just bad enough in the practical sense, globalists are looking to take control over you by taking control over your money. And they're doing this with what they're calling a digital dollar, but it's essentially a Chinese communist style social credit score system. That's why I need to tell you today, it's never been more important for you to take control over your wealth. Don't let your life savings become a casualty of failing banks or currency wars. I highly encourage you to call the only precious metal dealer I trust, American Heart for Gold. They'll show you how to protect your savings and retirement accounts by diversifying your wealth portfolio with physical gold and silver. My husband and I just did this. A portion of our wealth portfolio is now in physical precious metals. American Heart for Gold is a fabulous company. They support content like this that is committed to bringing you the truth. Tell them that I sent you, and they'll give you up to $15,000 of free silver on your first order. Call them now. You can click the link in the description of this episode or call 866-996-5172. That's 866-996-5172. Or text Liz to 998899. Again, the phone number is 866-996-5172 or text Liz to 998899. All right, I'm reading your comments in the live chat on YouTube, on Facebook, on X. I see a couple of you asking me why we're talking about Andrew Tate. Why not just ignore him? Why not just block him on X if he bothers you so much? Well, the answer to that is think about Hollywood as an example. If we ignore Hollywood, Hollywood's influence doesn't just go away. It just means that we are not countering Hollywood's influence. So if we allow the wokeism of Hollywood to be the predominant influence over our young people, and then we wonder why young people are woke, well, it's because we didn't counter that narrative. The same goes for Andrew Tate. When I mentioned earlier Andrew Tate's fall from grace, if you rewind a year ago, the beginning of 2024, Andrew Tate was viewed very differently, even 18 months ago. Andrew Tate was revered by young men, even on the right, in a very different way than he is now. He is no longer revered by young men on the right because there's been a concerted effort, primarily by me and others like me, to show you who Andrew Tate really is by showing you Andrew Tate's own words, where he admits that he's a pimp, where he admits that he exploits women, where he admits that he manipulates women for sex in order to make money, where he talks about abusing women. You're smart. You're moral. You know right from wrong. You know that's grotesque. That's not what you stand for. Andrew Tate is a con man. He is a master manipulator. He's trying to reel you in to make money from you by diagnosing that cultural problem, which affects you. It's a very real problem. It affects you on a daily basis. It's something that we fight to get rid of in our country, this attack on men, this war on men. But as I said before, accurately diagnosing a problem is very different than what you're prescribing as an antidote. And what Andrew Tate is prescribing as an antidote is self-destructive. So no, I can't ignore Andrew Tate. I don't want to ignore Andrew Tate because there are young men in this country who I care about. I want you to thrive. I want you to be prosperous. I want you to be men. And Andrew Tate is leading you on the wrong path. And if we don't counter the poison that he's offering you, then we're going to wake up in 10 years and wonder why this whole generation of young men is completely corrupted by materialism and pornography and exploitation of women and worship of self. And so we expose him because you're smart and you know what to do with the information once you have the information in front of you. That's the reason that we talk about Andrew Tate. That's the reason that when people like Patrick Bet-David, who is a nice enough person, I know him, you can have Andrew Tate on your show. It's not that this is about cancel culture, but if you're going to have him on the show, ask him the real questions. Don't have it be part of Andrew Tate's PR tour, to heal his damaged reputation. Ask him the difficult questions. And I haven't seen that yet from those American political commentators who have invited Andrew Tate on their show. I would love to see that from any of them, from Candace, from Tucker, from Benny Johnson, from PBD. That would be useful for the American public to watch. Okay, let's talk about Zelenskyy. There's been a new word coined, the word Zelenskyyed. What does it mean if you have been Zelenskyyed? Well, according to the internet, if you have been Zelenskyyed, it means that you have been humiliated beyond the point of no return, that you are such a tiny little egotist that you have been banished from being a serious player on the international stage. But people are applying this to their own, not just to politicians. They're applying this, and it's now part of our pop culture vernacular. If you are such an entitled brat, if you are such an idiot that you are a welfare queen like Zelenskyy, you take and take and take and take and lie and lie and lie on the national stage and then act ungrateful and someone calls it out for you and you're kicked out, you're exposed for it, then you've been Zelenskyyed. Maybe you know someone like this at your workplace. Maybe you can picture someone like this at your high school who's been Zelenskyyd, who's such an entitled brat that they're absolutely humiliated when they're exposed for it. I hope that we I hope that we as a culture incorporate this new word, Zelenskyy, into every aspect of our vocabulary. Now, what's interesting is over the weekend, after President Trump kicked Zelenskyy out of the Oval Office and out of the White House, serving his lunch to White House staff after he'd been excused from that meeting, the mainstream media and leftist commentators were angry at Trump because of course they were. Because that's of course what support of Zelenskyy, support of the Ukraine war has always been. It's never been because these people actually care about Ukraine. Most of them couldn't point it out to you on a map. This has always been a never Trump endeavor. It's always been because they believed their own story. They believed Russia, their Russia collusion hoax. They believed that Russia stole the election for Donald Trump, and that's why Hillary Clinton was never president. And so their hatred for Russia and their support for Zelenskyy was always about Donald Trump. But this, of course, we have proof of this, thanks to the internet digging this up. Back in 2022, Joe Biden, when he was, we could call him president, we could call him the puppet that was in the Oval Office, however you want to categorize him, Joe Biden once got angry at Zelenskyy for the very same thing that J.D. Vance and Donald Trump got angry at Zelenskyy for not saying thank you to the absolutely humongous amount of money that Zelenskyy has been receiving from the American people. According to none other than CNN, back in 2022, President Biden was on the phone with President Zelenskyy, informing Zelenskyy that Zelenskyy would be receiving an additional $1 billion. Yes, billion with a B. And Zelensky's response was not to say thank you. Zelensky's response was to ask for more. And even Joe Biden got angry at Zelenskyy for this and said, aren't you going to be grateful for what you're getting? Take a look at the video.
Thank you so much, Molly. Let me go to Courtney. NBC News has new exclusive reporting about a phone call that happened between President Biden and the Ukrainian president back in June. What do we know about that conversation, Courtney?
Yeah, that's right, Kate. So in this conversation, President Biden called President Zelenskyy to tell him about a roughly $1 billion package of additional equipment and weapons for the Ukrainian military coming from the United States. During the course of the call, President Zelenskyy continued, according to a number of officials who we spoke with who are familiar with the call, President Zelenskyy continued to talk about the additional equipment and weapons and support that he and his military needed. According to these officials, they said that President Biden finally just got frustrated and lost his temper and told President Zelenskyy, look, you could be a little bit more grateful. The reason that this story is interesting to us and is something that we're reporting on and officials were speaking to us about is because it shows that all these months ago, President Biden already realized that there was going to be a point where the American people, members of Congress, where people would start potentially pushing back on all these billions and billions of dollars of aid and equipment that the U.S. has been providing to Ukraine. And he knew that the narrative out there needed to be that the Ukrainian people and President Zelenskyy were grateful for it if the support was going to continue at that same level, Kate.
All right, Courtney Cuby, some really interesting reporting. You can find more on our website, NBCnews.com. Molly Hunter, thank you.
That was NBC, I should say, not CNN. You guys, by the way, are cracking me up in the live chat. Ambassador Soul goes, that's what drug addicts do, meaning they only constantly ask for more and never say thank you. And welcome to Redneckistan said, I named a stray cat Zelenskyy. It's always wanting food. That's exactly right. See, the American people are smart. The American people are insightful. The American people can see through BS. Even Trump haters, by the way, this was the brilliance of what President Trump did by allowing us all a glimpse into the Oval Office, a glimpse into not just the outcome of the art of the deal, but how the sausage making of the art of the deal, how the sausage is made. He allowed us to see Zelenskyy, for who many of us have seen Zelenskyy as for a long time, but many people have not. Even Trump haters like Mark Thiessen, who is a columnist for the Washington Post on foreign and domestic policy. He's an AEI fellow, former chief speechwriter for President George W. Bush. You get the idea about who this guy is. Even he, who is an avowed Ukraine war supporter, wrote after this White House debacle, quote, Zelenskyy must mend the breach with Trump or resign. An interesting thing to note is Zelensky's mulishness, his entitled attitude, has actually hurt Ukraine. which shows you that his effort was never really on behalf of Ukraine, but on behalf of himself and his globalist agenda. Now, on Friday's show, we called for for Donald Trump to direct Elon Musk to use Doge to audit all of the funding that's gone to Ukraine, our taxpayer money that's gone to Zelensky. Zelensky claims that only half of it ever reached him. Well, where did it go? What's it been used for? Even the money that Zelensky has actually received, what has he been spending it on? Well, if you look at this tweet, Elon Musk is heeding our call. He is responding. Charlie Kirk tweeted the same thing and says, now it's time for Elon and Doge to audit the money we sent to Ukraine. And Elon Musk publicly responded and said, okay. Elon Musk is going to, mark my words, just put a pin in this prediction, that is going to be as corrupt, if not more so, than the doging of US aid. The amount of corruption and waste of your taxpayer money is going to be second to none when it comes to all of that money that was sent to Ukraine. Because as we covered on Friday, this was never just a matter of stopping Russia's imperialism or continuing the Cold War, this strategy of containment of Vladimir Putin. It was never about just labeling, is it morally right or morally wrong for Vladimir Putin to invade Ukraine and try to take back Crimea? That's whatever about that stuff. You can think that what Vladimir Putin did was wrong. I do. And it's still not what this war in Ukraine was about. And it's not what your taxpayer money was going to fund. This was always a globalist endeavor to unseat the United States from our position of power by spending so much taxpayer money, printing and spending so much taxpayer money that it caused inflation in the United States to the point that our currency was so devalued that we would no longer be the world reserve currency. And the reason for that, as nerdy as it sounds, the reason for that is because our power as a global superpower isn't just because we have nuclear weapons and a very strong military, as awesome as that is. Our strength lies in our economic power. And Donald Trump uniquely, very uniquely, I don't think there's any other president that's ever understood this and leveraged it the way that Trump has. Donald Trump understood that, and he's used our economy as the leverage in negotiations to get what's in the interest of America first. And the globalist community hates that. And so they said, okay, well, how do we unseat the United States? We unseat them by taking away their economic power. The only way to do that would be to remove the US dollar as the world reserve currency. And then that would completely neuter the United States. So how is that done? It's done by devaluing the US dollar. Well, how is the US dollar devalued? Well, if the president of the United States, say Joe Biden, is so stupid as to overspend to the point that our inflation goes up, that would happen. And to do so, there has to be some virtue signaling reason. Support for Ukraine. Send that money to the courageous Zelensky. This has always been what it's about. And so when we have Elon Musk going through the receipts, when he is following the dollars, you're going to find corruption like you have never seen before. Corruption like you have never seen before. And by the way, have you seen the ratings on Zelensky? Another brilliant aspect of what Donald Trump did to Zelensky in the Oval Office is exposing Zelensky to the everyday American who may not be quite as politically aware as you are. You've seen through Zelensky for a long time, but you should see how Zelensky's approval rating has changed in the past 2 to 3 years. We're going to watch that video. I want you to watch it all the way through. It's about a minute and just a second, but I do want to ask you a question first. How well are you sleeping at night? Real peace of mind is necessary for a good night's sleep, and real peace of mind comes from knowing that your family is prepared for anything. My Patriot Supply, America's most trusted name in emergency preparedness, is offering a limited time discount on their best-selling 3-month emergency food kit. This is not your typical survival food. Each kit provides over 2,000 calories and 100% of the recommended value of 12 essential vitamins and minerals daily for 90 days with delicious meals and extras. I'm talking chicken, beef, fruits, veggies. Quality meals that last up to 25 years in storage and still taste like home cooked. My husband and I have pallets of My Patriot Supply emergency food kits in our basement because we want to be prepared for everything. Your 3-month emergency food kit includes free shipping, a disaster replacement warranty, and 24/7 USA-based support. This special discount is available for a limited time only. Visit preparewithliz.com now to secure your family's future with a $100 discount. I'm really happy to be able to give you guys that discount. If you order by 3 p.m., they will ship your order within that same day, so you have peace of mind immediately. Go to preparewithliz.com, preparewithliz.com for a $100 discount. Okay, so take a look at this. This is the perception of Zelenskyy and the war in Ukraine and whether our tax dollars should be sent to Zelenskyy for the war in Ukraine compared to people's perception of these same issues a couple of years ago. Take a look at this.
Holy Toledo. Look at this trend line here. U.S. support for Ukraine is too much. Back when the war began, back in February of 2022, it was just 7%. Up like a rocket ship. My goodness. Up now in February of 2025 to 41%. And the clear majority of Republicans, and of course Republicans are in charge of the U.S. government now, 62% of Republicans say that the U.S. support for Ukraine is too much. What a difference from just 3 years ago. I can remember, John, all those backyards in the United States with those Ukrainian flags. Far fewer of them today, as Americans' opinions on Ukraine have changed dramatically.
What about opinions of the Ukrainian president?
Right. You know, obviously, if you would expect changes amongst the public on feelings towards Ukraine, feelings towards Zelenskyy have changed also dramatically. Look at this. Confident Zelenskyy will do the right thing when it comes to world affairs. Back in 2022, it was the clear majority, 72% through the floor. Through the floor by 2024, just 48% of Americans say that they're confident that Zelenskyy will do the right thing when it comes to world affairs. And GOP confidence has also plummeted dramatically. Now the clear majority of Republicans are not confident that Zelenskyy will do the right thing when it comes to world affairs. Really a real trend line, ones you rarely see in the American public when it comes to Ukraine and Zelenskyy. Confidence in both going down through the grade.
That's right, and rightly so. I can point to you one of the moments that solidified my perception of Vladimir Zelenskyy as not just an actor, not just a grifter, but a slimy globalist of the international globalist style. And that's the moment where Zelenskyy and his wife, when they were supposed to be on the front lines of a war in Ukraine, as Ukrainian young men are dying by droves, Zelenskyy and his wife did a photo shoot with Vogue magazine. And if you look at the behind the scenes video, I'm going to show you this video because I want you to see exactly how this is staged to make it look like Zelenskyy is in a dangerous war zone when in fact it looks like he's on the set of a photo shoot. This is the moment to me that I knew that Zelenskyy was a fraud. I knew that it was a hoax. I already knew it was unwise, and I knew the implications for the US dollar and the US economy, and I understood that. But this is the moment that I thought Vladimir Zelenskyy is not just an actor. He's not just a grifter. He is a dangerous hoax. Take a look at this. This is behind the scenes black and white footage of Zelenskyy. But when these scenes that are supposed to look like they're in an active war zone, they're in an airplane hangar. It's staged. It's staged. The whole thing is fake. And I thought to myself, who would do that? Who would do that as they are forcing young men to die on the front lines in Ukraine? Who would do that? Only an evil man would do that. A hoax would do that. Someone who cares so little about humanity that he is willing to try to manipulate and defraud you in order to get more U.S. taxpayer dollars. And so it tracks what Donald Trump did for us. He did us a service by allowing us to see the inside of how he does negotiation. We know that Donald Trump, time and time again, when he was president the first time, in his personal life, his professional life, and now in his second term as president, we know that he secures good deals. He always comes out on top in these deals. But what we haven't seen, even though he wrote a book, The Art of the Deal, telling us how it's done, we have not been able to see it happen. We've not had a seat at that negotiating table where we see how the deal is made. And he gave us a glimpse into exactly how that deal is made. And it was a service that the President of the United States gave to us because it also exposed Zelenskyy for exactly who he is. It's almost exactly what we're doing with Andrew Tate, letting his words speak for himself. You listen to Andrew Tate's words, his abuse of women, his exploitation of women, his pornography business, his lack of humanity towards women, and you tell me if he's a good role model. We'll apply that same principle to Zelenskyy. You listen to Zelensky's word, his ingratitude, his entitled mentality, his outfits, his dress-up costumes, this Vogue photo shoot. And you tell me if he's the real deal. You tell me if he's courageous. You tell me if he's taking the United States for a ride. And Donald Trump did us all a service by allowing Zelenskyy to show us who Zelenskyy really is. But here's the thing. This is a constantly evolving situation. We know that Donald Trump brought Zelenskyy to the White House in order to secure a mineral rights deal. And I think this might be the most underreported part of the whole story, why mineral rights in Ukraine are actually so critically important and why Donald Trump is going to secure that mineral rights deal that he set out to secure. He kicked Zelenskyy out of the White House this time, but he's going to get that deal secured. And my prediction would be by the end of the week at the longest is when that's going to happen. But let's talk about this for a second, because this is actually critically important to understand. Mineral rights in Ukraine, meaning Ukraine is the home to incredible minerals. So the rights to those minerals for use and for sale. Mineral rights, if Ukraine signed over the rights to these minerals to the United States, then it would give the United States an actual interest in that region. We talk often about Donald Trump's foreign policy philosophy, America first. There has to be an interest, a U.S. interest for us to get involved in any kind of conflict, whether it's a war, whether it's whatever. Well, rights over these minerals would give the United States an actual interest in the region that many people find it difficult to articulate right now, except if they articulate it as sort of an anti-Putin, anti-Russia argument. But mineral rights in Ukraine would allow us to have access to these resources, these minerals, which are necessary for the computer that you're using right now, the smartphone that's in your hand, AI, etc. And we need to be at the forefront of this AI race, if you call it, because China is also at the forefront of this race, and we need to be able to compete with and defeat China at this race. In order to compete with and defeat China, we have to have access to the minerals needed to build computers and smartphones, AI, etc. So here's what the map looks like. All of this is necessary for the way that our world works. You know, your iPhone, your computer, Elon Musk's Tesla's batteries, they all depend on these mineral resources. And whoever has access to them will have a hand up in the AI race. That's simply the way that it is, like it or not. And so what it does for Ukraine is it actually provides a sort of NATO effect without Ukraine being part of NATO. Now, we don't want Ukraine to be part of NATO because Zelenskyy is a terrible person. And if he invoked Article 5 of NATO, then U.S. military members would be required to be boots on the ground in this war in Ukraine. Nobody wants that except perhaps Zelenskyy, who I believe has at least insinuated that in the past, if not said it outright. But what's interesting is if and when the U.S. secures mineral rights in Ukraine, not only would it deter China from having access to those minerals and allow the U.S. to compete with and defeat China in this technology race, it would also provide a security guarantee of sorts, or a security guarantee effect to Ukraine without Ukraine having control over that. What I mean by that is if Putin invaded Ukraine and U.S. had mineral rights in Ukraine, then Putin would be messing with the United States. So that begs the question then, what is this war really about? Well, for the left, as I said earlier, it's mostly about their hatred of Trump. It's not support of Ukraine. It's not even about their hatred for Vladimir Putin. The left actually hates Trump. This meme probably explains it the best. This meme went viral over the weekend, and I confess it made me laugh my head off. It's the meme of David and Victoria Beckham. Victoria Beckham saying, "I stand with Ukraine." David from the other room saying, "Be honest." And Victoria going, "I am being honest." David being quiet, and then Victoria admitting the truth. "I don't care about Ukraine. I just hate Trump." David saying, "Thank you." That meme, of course, is, well, a meme from a scene in their documentary. And I think that encapsulates the left's stance on their support of Ukraine better than almost anything else does. The left never forgave Russia for supposedly stealing the election from Hillary Clinton. They still believe their own lie about Russian collusion. They believe that hoax that was created by the U.S. intelligence community was real. So by supporting Ukraine, the left thinks that they are hurting Trump. But for Trump, well, first and foremost, President Trump genuinely wants peace. He always has. And that is why the Uniparty in D.C. hates him. Trump, of course, has a new statement about this today. He also understands that he's going to get his way. It's just a matter of when. It's not a matter of if. He says, and he's responding to a comment Zelenskyy made. Ukraine's Zelenskyy says, "End of war with Russia is very, very far away." Donald Trump responded to that by saying, "This is the worst statement that could have been made by Zelenskyy, and America will not put up with it for much longer. It is what I was saying. This guy doesn't want there to be peace as long as he has America's backing." And Europe, in the meeting they had with Zelenskyy, stated flatly they cannot do the job without the U.S. Probably not a great statement to have made in terms of a show of strength against Russia. What were they thinking? Donald Trump knows how to negotiate. The pragmatic and businessman he is also recognizes that it's better to get something than nothing out of this. And he sees an opportunity to secure trillions of dollars in critical minerals. Why? Again, because China is actively securing these minerals and elements around the globe, and they're using them for AI development. Which, of course, brings us to another point, too. For Trump and the new American foreign policy agenda, our goal isn't necessarily to support Vladimir Putin. It somewhat has nothing to do with that, but rather to prevent Putin from running into the arms of communist China. Because that's what would happen. The U.S. strategically cannot be outnumbered by a Chinese-Russian alliance. We just can't. We'll lose our power. We'll lose our standing in the world. That would not be good. So Donald Trump wants peace. He wants mineral rights. And ultimately, he wants the U.S. to stop being taken advantage of, which is also why doging Ukraine spending is so important. And maybe, according to Elon Musk, the doging of Ukraine spending is something that's going to be happening and happening soon. Speaking of Doge, we are expecting any moment to get the first word on the doging of the Department of Defense. We were told over the weekend that we could expect the first results of Elon Musk's audit of the Department of Defense sometime today. We will keep you updated when those findings are released. But you want to talk about corrupt? I bet that there's even going to be implications for COVID-19 and Dr. Fauci, because the Department of Defense, DARPA, that's intricately tied to the National Institute of Health and the bioweapons gain of function research that Fauci lied about. It's all happening under the head of both the NIH, but also the Department of Defense. And I, for one, cannot wait to see what corruption Elon Musk has uncovered there. All right, a few crazy numbers that you should know about today. The Prime Minister of Poland, Donald Tusk, said that 500 million Europeans are asking 300 million Americans to defend them against 140 million Russians. If that is not perspective, then I don't know what is. 500 million Europeans, why can they not defend themselves against 140 million Russians? Well, perhaps because they don't want to. They would rather it be your money than their money being spent to defend them. That is, of course, what Donald Trump's strength is. All right, border crossings. In February of 2020, is that 2022? In February of 2022, we had 140,000, in 2024. So 1 year ago, this is a 1 year ago comparison. In February of 2024, we had 140,638 illegal border crossings. Fast forward to February of 2025, this year we had a mere 8,450 illegal crossings at the U.S. border. The difference, of course, is that Donald Trump actually wants to secure our border, and Joe Biden never did. Joe Biden believed in open borders. This is a CBS headline. CBS. They said amid Trump crackdown, illegal border crossings plunged to levels not seen in decades. Even CBS is forced to admit the truth. They say the number of migrants crossing the U.S. southern border illegally in President Trump's first full month in office plunged to a level not seen in at least 25 years, according to preliminary government data obtained by CBS News. Last month, Border Patrol received about 8,450 apprehensions of migrants who crossed into the country unlawfully between official entry points along the U.S.-Mexico border, the statistics show. On some days, during a record spike in illegal crossings under the Biden administration, Border Patrol rounded up more than 8,000 apprehensions in a single day, compared to an overall number for the whole month. February's total, which could be adjusted when the government officially publishes the statistics, would be the lowest monthly apprehensions tally recorded by Border Patrol since at least fiscal year 2000, the last period with public monthly data. The final tallies usually don't deviate much from the preliminary figures. Over the past 25 years, the only time monthly apprehensions came close to the level recorded in February was in April 2017. And who was president then? Exactly, Donald Trump, when Border Patrol apprehended 11,000 migrants at the Southwest Border Agency data show. Again, what have we said all along? You know this. The American people are very smart. They see the writing on the wall. We know that the crisis at our border was not just something that happened. It wasn't arbitrary. It wasn't just a force of nature. The crisis at our southern border was a result of a deliberate political choice made by President Joe Biden, Vice President Kamala Harris, and the uniparty, but mostly the Democrats in the United States Congress. It never had to be. We didn't have to see this number of border crossings. We didn't have to see the crime that came, the cartels, the terrorists. We didn't have to see any of that. We didn't have to see welfare cracking. We didn't have to see Springfield, Ohio, and Portland, Maine. We didn't have to see any of this. This was a result of Democrat politicians who hate you, who want to change the voting demographic in our nation by, at the very least, even if they don't want these illegal aliens to be citizens, and we know that they do, but even if they don't, they know that by allowing this invasion at our southern border, it degrades and violates our sovereignty, and it also changes the districts in Congress and allows more Democrats to be members of the United States Congress, which of course favors their open borders agenda as well as their anti-America agenda. All right, the last crazy number of the day, and this is from The Hill. The Education Department sent out an email to staffers on Friday saying if they quit by Monday night, that's today, so T-minus a couple of hours, they will receive in return a $25,000 cash payout. A department official confirmed the email, which warned of significant layoffs in the near future. They better take it. They better take it because it looks like otherwise they'll get fired. I actually hope they don't take it in a sense, because why should they get $25,000? They should just be fired. Just fire them. Don't give them $25,000 to get out of there. And we should get used to this. The federal government should get used to this. It means a reduction in the size and the breadth and the power of the administrative state. The education department should already be shut all the way down. All of these staffers should be fired. This should be applied. This should be applied to every agency of the federal government. And we might hear about this, more about this agenda tomorrow night. President Trump is set to take the stage in a joint address to Congress. He has been teasing this all day. He said it's going to be big. He's going to tell it how it is. I, for one, am very excited. I think this is going to be a historic address to Congress. And you better believe that the mainstream media is already gearing up on how to spin it in some negative light. But here at Blaze Media, we are bringing you the unfiltered truth, live, raw, and without the nonsense. That's why we won't just be streaming the speech live. We will be hosting a roundtable event with top Blaze TV hosts, giving you real-time reactions, analysis, and the truth the mainstream media won't touch. Yes, we have won some battles, and we should celebrate those victories, but we have not yet won the war. The deep state is still actively trying to subvert your mandate that you gave to President Trump when you cast your vote for him. The fight for America's future is far from over. And this speech is setting the tone for what is to come next. Will President Trump's vision push us forward, or will the resistance in Washington be effective at stopping him at every turn? We're going to be breaking it down live in real time with no corporate agenda. And the best part, we are simulcasting this across all Blaze channels. So no matter where you tune in, you are getting real coverage from voices you trust. Oh, and one more thing. You're going to want to stay until the end, because we've got an exclusive sneak peek at Glenn Beck's NASA whistleblower special. And let me tell you, it is explosive. So mark your calendars for Tuesday, March 4th at 7:30 p.m. Eastern time. Set your reminders. Join me and other Blaze TV hosts live. It's going to be great. I hope to see you there. This is one speech you do not want to miss. So Tuesday, March 4th at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. I'm looking forward to seeing you there. All right, guys, if you haven't signed up for my newsletter, go to LizWheelerNewsletter.com. Make sure that you are subscribed on YouTube, YouTube.com/LizWheeler, on X at X.com/Liz_Wheeler, on Apple, on Spotify for the audio versions of the show. Thank you for being here today. Thank you for all your comments. I read them as we go along in this show, even if I don't get to read them all out loud. I do see what you're saying, and I appreciate your contributions and your hilarious comments. Sometimes they get me. They get me right in the gut in the middle of the show. I appreciate you all. Thank you for watching today. Thank you for listening. I'm Liz Wheeler. This is The Liz Wheeler Show.